first up, there's a quick PSA people need to know about. Basically, there's been an issue recently where some ESCs are not reporting temperature properly. So ESCs normally report temperature over telemetry, and that's not a big deal. But one of the other things that ESCs use the temperature on board for, it's on the MCUs, is actually to do the temperature protection. So typically in BL32, most ESCs have temperature protection enabled at 140 degrees Celsius, just to protect, to make sure your FETs aren't melting off, that sort of thing.
Right.
It's been there for a while. However, some ESCs recently, I know the diatone F50s are shipping like this now.
Okay.
Do not have temperature protection enabled. And what happens is, for some reason, they're not reporting the temperature. And if you do enable temperature protection, which happens when you flash forward to a new ESC firmware, that temperature protection may prevent you from being able to run your quad like normal. So what you'll see is you'll spin up the throttle, and then as you go up in throttle, it'll work normally, and then suddenly it'll cut down, way down in throttle.
Right. So normally temperature protection is on in BLHeli, and it's set to 140 degrees Celsius, and your ESC never gets anywhere close to 140 degrees Celsius, so you never even know it exists. And in fact, I've said temperature protection on, temperature protection off, it doesn't really matter. But these ESCs, the temperature sensor reports the wrong temperature, and they ship with temperature protection off. So clearly somebody knew this was an issue. Yeah, but then when you flash BLHeli to a new version, it goes back to being on, and then your ESC basically just shuts down the minute you take off.
Yeah, Carl Stone from Diatone is also giving that information. Yeah, please turn the temp protection back off. That's like a thing they're telling people. So if you do experience this, know that it's likely not an issue, and you shouldn't see problems from disabling it. But it is it seems to be turning on. It's not properly set off on the targets for the new targets when you flash. So.
Okay. So if you just flashed a new version of BLHeli and all of a sudden, as soon as you take off, your quad just acts like the battery died, this is probably why. Go turn temperature protection off. What do we know why the chip isn't what happened? Is this just the casualty of 2021?
I can't tell you for sure because it's hard to get enough data, and I did not get a response from Diatone exactly why. But from what I can tell, it's due to the clone MCUs. So they've recently been using clone MCUs instead of standard MCUs because they're cheaper or easier to get. And they use a couple different brands. One we were looking at was CKS. And it seems like those are reporting, at least the one we tested was reporting a 0 Celsius. And I think BL32 sees that and then knows it's not valid. But I'm not 100% sure. So I wasn't able to lock down exactly why. We just know that the symptom is when you turn it on, it does seem to not be responding correctly.
Well, this would be a big freaking deal if we were actually using the temperature sensor that's built into the MCU. I mean, technically we're using it, but realistically you seldom hit that temperature limit under most conditions. But somewhere out there, someone's actually using this MCU and needs the temperature, and they're screwed.
Presumably,
sucks to be them.
And